Hello, I'm Karen with WW After 50. You do not have to be over 50 to watch this video, but the purpose of this video is to kind of eliminate the mystery of those Weight Watcher meetings, the WW meetings. I've heard from so many people who have said over the years, what happens in those meetings? Do they yell at you? Do they browbeat you? Nothing could be further from the truth, but I'm going to give you all the details in this video. So please take a look. By the way, if you're interested, follow me and subscribe to my YouTube channel, WW After 50. I share a lot of things about my own WW journey, day-to-day, the challenges, all that kind of thing. I'm also on Instagram, WW.After50. The dot is there for a very irritating reason, which I put in one of my videos. I won't go into it, but I share a lot of other things on my Instagram that I don't necessarily put in YouTube or vice versa. So there's not a whole lot of overlapping there. So take a look at both of those. I'd love to see you there. And after the video, let me know what you think. Have you had your own experiences at WW meetings? But I'm going to tell you everything you want to know here in this video. So why am I the one talking about WW meetings? Unfortunately or fortunately, I have a lot of experience with these meetings. I have lost weight on WW, a significant amount of weight, but guess what? I've gained it back. Now, I obviously don't think this is WW's fault, or I wouldn't keep, staying with them and going to the meetings. However, it's my own fault. A couple things. Either life gets in the way, that's kind of an excuse, but that is what happened to me this last time. But also, I just kind of lose the weight, and in my mind, I know I can't go back to doing what I was doing. But I do, and guess what? It doesn't work. The weight still comes back. So this time on my journey I'm on right now, I am determined to lose the weight once and for all, but then to be able to maintain it. And part of my journey is going to WW meetings. I've done them online and I've done them in person. I've done them in a variety of different states. So I kind of have a feeling of what all the meetings are like, and they're pretty standardized. I mean, wherever you are, it might be a little bit different. So this is my own journey. I just want to, say that up front. This is what I've experienced, but I've experienced for a long time and a lot of meetings over the years. So I thought I would share that with you. I want you to know I'm not affiliated with WW in any way. They're not sponsoring me to do this video. I don't work for them. This is totally my own experience and my own journey. Why do I think a meeting is the way to go for WW? Every person is different. I want to say that up front. And as I said just a second ago, I've done it online and I've done it in person. For me, the in-person works so much better. When I'm online, it's all a mental game. I mean, totally a mental game for me. But I don't feel accountable. It's easy to go on and off of it. When I go to a meeting, I know I'm going once a week to a meeting. And I'm going to weigh at that meeting. And many times, if I have found a meeting I really like, I know people there, and maybe they're expecting me to be there, or I've met people there. I really get a lot from the meeting. So I always go to the meeting, and when I walk out, I never, ever have regretted going to the meeting, ever. I've always been so glad I've gone, so glad I've gone. Even if I've gained weight, it's hard to walk through those doors, especially the first time. It's hard. And then if you've gained, which can happen, and it does happen, it's really hard to go back, I think. Again, mentally. Do they judge you at those meetings if you've gained weight? No, not at all. So it's totally me. But it's also telling me I'm back in control. So that's why I like to go to the meetings, and I get so much inspiration in the meetings. I'm online a lot. I'm in different groups. I will always be there. I get ideas that way. However, in the meetings, there's some things you just can't get online. There's a lot of things locally that, restaurants, foods, that kind of thing, which I'll talk about in a second. When I talk about what happens in the meeting, that you just can't get when you're in a big online Facebook group or an Instagram or whatever it might be. It's nice. And it's nice to see people who are kind of going through what you're going through. Because many times I feel like even though a lot of us need to lose weight, it's kind of a lonely business doing this. And you might feel like you're the only person who's having this challenge. So you could go out to dinner and everyone around you is just ordering whatever they want, but they're not worried about it, where you're trying to figure out what is a good choice here. And when you go to these meetings, you find out everyone is in the same boat you're in. Everyone. So you're not the only one who had that challenge this past week. So that's why I like the meetings a lot. I get a lot out of them. I learn a lot, and I highly encourage you to try it if you haven't. If online is working for you, go for it. So I'm not here to tell you don't, you've got to change over. If it's working for you and you've had great success with it, do it. But this is going to tell you exactly what happens in a WW meeting. So the first thing you want to do when you're deciding to go to a meeting is find a meeting. How do you do that? You can go to the WW website if you have internet access, and it will show you a little menu bar at the top usually, and it will, right now at least, this is 2020, so if you're looking at this later it might change, but it'll say WW Studio Finder or Locator. That means the location of the meetings. Now, an actual WW Studio is a brick and mortar place where it might say Weight Watchers on the front or WW Studio. They changed over their names. So Weight Watchers is now WW. So you're going to hear me use those different names. And some of them now say WW Studio and some still say Weight Watchers out there. I think they're gradually trying to change all that across the country, or I don't know, maybe across the world. Who knows? But anyway, those are their actual buildings, their actual offices or stores, whatever you want to call them. They're meeting places. However, you might see on there that they're meeting, on Wednesday at 10 at the Baptist church in town. Or they might be meeting on Fridays at 5 o'clock at a community center. It can be a variety of places. If they're meeting in a church or a community center, they're not affiliated with that in any way, shape, or form. I've heard from people. It's like, oh, it must be a Catholic thing, or it must be a Baptist thing, or whatever. It's not. They just are renting that space. It's like an all-purpose room that probably the churches and the community centers rent out to a variety of groups. So they're not affiliated at all. They have just found a space that works in that location, because maybe they have a studio, but it's in a different part of town, and they're trying to make sure this is accessible to everyone. When I first started Weight Watchers many years ago, I had to go to a church, not had to, but it was the only one. I was in a small town in Texas, and the only place they had it was in a church, and it was one meeting a week. And that was the one I went to. It was I think on Wednesday nights. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know they had meetings other places or anything like that. But I couldn't have gone anyway because I was in this small town. So that was the meeting I went to. But if you have a choice, pick the day and time that probably will work for you the best. A big misconception that a lot of people have is once you go to the meeting that you're stuck at that meeting. You're not. For instance, right now I'm in Arizona and I am still looking for the perfect meeting. And I don't know if it exists, but I was very spoiled because I used to live in Colorado, went to meetings there and loved the meeting there. Loved it. And I keep trying to replicate it here and it just isn't happening. But I have found some meetings that I really like and I enjoy. So I think I'm going to try to make them my home meeting, but I tried different days. I tried Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I didn't try early in the week because I don't want to weigh on a Saturday and then weigh on a Tuesday again. So I'm trying different times because they all have a different vibe. So just pick one that you like. If you don't like it, and give it a couple tries. You got to give it a couple tries. But if you don't like it, you're not married to it. You can go to another day and time. Now, as far as the differences in the meetings, I can tell you I can see big differences personally. If you go, for instance, on a Saturday, many times, especially in cities, they have a lot of meetings on a Saturday morning because that's the most popular time. So those meetings are a little bit more crowded. I like that because you get a wide variety of people. But if you think about it, a lot of people can go on Saturday because they're not working. And a lot of people just like to start the day off on Saturday morning with it, and then they have the rest of the day. So you'll find a variety of people on Saturdays. During the week, you get a lot of retirees, stay-at-home mom and dads, are people who work from home who have flexible schedules. That's me. So I can go, different days and times. That's why I'm trying out different meetings. So you can just get a different vibe then. In the evenings, you get a lot of people who have been working during the day, a 9-to-5 job. You also get a lot of parents who have left their kids at home with their significant other. So you get a variety of people there. You can get retirees then as well. Now, sometimes they have mom and dad and me meetings, which means you can bring your kids to those meetings with mom or dad. I would highly encourage you to do that if you're going to bring kids to the meeting. And I say that as a parent, okay? But I have also observed that people get very irritated that they paid for this meeting and there's a child in there who's very disruptive. So if you have a kid who's going to be quite happy sitting there playing on something, or, a baby who's sleeping, who is not going to wake up, you should be fine. I mean, I guess the meeting could ask you to leave, but I have never seen that happen. But you certainly would not, if your kid is screaming, I will tell you, there'll be someone in that meeting who gives you a dirty look. It won't be me, just so you know, but there will be someone. And I see both sides of that, but just so you know, there's usually mom and dad and me if you can make those meetings. Now, what you might notice too are people that don't look like they should be there. Here's a pro tip for you. You're going to see people at meetings who look like they should not lose weight. I have heard people comment to those people saying, "What are you doing here?" Now, I guess that could be a compliment to the person, but typically those people are either very close to their goal weight or they have lost the weight they need to lose and they're at their goal weight and they're maintaining. I love having those people in a meeting. Love it. A lot of the best meetings I've ever attended have a lot of what they call lifetimers. Once you hit your goal weight, you can become a lifetime member at Weight Watchers and not pay. But you do have to weigh in once a month and you can attend as many meetings as you want. I have seen where a lifetimer comes every single week. They've learned what I had not learned, is that you need to be accountable even after you've lost your weight. They are usually very engaged. They're very absorbent of all the information. They're great people to have in a meeting. So I like having those folks in a meeting. I also really like having men in a meeting. And here's another pro tip. If you have men in a meeting and you're a woman watching this, be cognizant of what people are saying, because I have had many men in a meeting before. I love it. Love it. They have a whole different perspective on things. However, they tend to lose faster than women, and other women judge them on that. They'll say, "Wow, must be nice. You lost 5 pounds in 1 week and you didn't even try." It's kind of insulting to the men, is what I found out over the years, because I've talked to a lot of men and they said, they kind of get shamed into not coming back because these women seem angry with them. It's not their fault. It's just totally not their fault. Men, process things differently, whatever. They lose weight differently, usually, not all the time. So don't judge them just because they shouldn't be judged. And that's the only thing I've ever seen negative-wise at the meetings. And it's not like people are like, "Oh," and they don't call them names, anything like that. So if you're a man watching this, embrace it. You're going to be welcomed at these meetings. But be aware that some women, probably in your life you see it, will say, "Gosh, must be nice," and just, you might want to have a comeback there. And the first time I heard a comeback was like, "I can't help it. I'm a guy. I'm sorry, but I love this plan. I want to follow it." And that hit home with me. After that, I was like, you know what? He is dead on. He's right. And I love when they bring a different perspective to the meeting. So you'll find a meeting that really works for you. I want to say something that you may not know. This is it's not a secret, but they don't really advertise it. You can go to as many meetings as you want in a week. You can only weigh in once a week. So the Weight Watcher meetings go from, I believe, Monday through Sunday. You can weigh in once. Sometimes it's Sunday through Saturday, but I think it's Monday through Sunday. You can weigh in one time a week. They will not let you weigh in more than that, because that just can throw you off mentally everywhere, and you really shouldn't weigh in more than once a week. However, let's say I went on a Monday And it's been a tough week for me, challenging. I'm still on the plan. I know I have a tough weekend coming up. I might go to a meeting on Thursday. It's the same thing as Monday as far as what they talk about. However, it'll be a totally different experience because you'll have different people in the meeting, which I'll talk about here in a second. So anyway, you could go to more than one meeting, and just wanted to pass that on because I didn't know that. And even this round, when I've rejoined WW, that has not been talked about at all. So I know you can do it. So just talk to your group about it or your meeting about it. It might be different in your state. So I shouldn't say I know you can do it. Just if you want to go, ask about it. Now, what happens before you go to the meeting? What I would recommend is downloading the app. Now, if you've already tuned me out right there, don't worry. You do not have to have the app. But get online, download the app. And I think you can sign up even online now and on the app. It'll just speed things up for you when you go to your first meeting. If you don't do it, don't worry. They'll still let you come in. You'll just probably fill out more paperwork. When you walk in a meeting, what does it look like? What do you expect? Are there people standing there with hoods on saying, come over here and, we're going to shame you for your weight? Absolutely, positively not. It's a very supportive, positive environment. When you walk in, it varies by location. I'm going to tell you what my studio looks like now and what other studios I've been to look like, and then the churches and community centers. So my studio now, when I walk in, there's 2 doors you can walk in. Everything's different. And there's a big desk right in the front, but the big Weight Watcher logo is behind them. And there are people sitting behind the desk, depending on how crowded the meeting they expect it, how crowded they expect the meeting to be, they try to staff up for that. And there are people behind the desk, and they're very nice. And I know they're called something else now, but they used to be called receptionist. And in front of them are scales. That sounds terrible, but there are 3 scales. But the one thing you notice is there are not numbers on these scales at all. So nowhere, no how, no place in a Weight Watcher meeting do you see numbers flashing. Do you see anything showing what your weight is? So you need to be aware of that. But you get in a line, and usually there is a line, and then you go to the first person available, and they help you sign up for WW. And when you come back the next week, you do the same thing. You go in line, and then you weigh right there, and you're done. And then you can decide what to do about the meeting, which again is what we're going to get to here in just a second. Now, another studio I've been to, and I think it might be their more current ones, or maybe, I don't know what they're doing. They have what I call little space capsules. They're like little cubicles. And you can go in. It's very welcoming. It's light and bright. And you go in, and there's a person there at a desk. And there's a scale on the ground that you can get on. Usually there's a chair you can put your junk on if you have coats or whatever. But you can see your weight there as well. It's on a desk. And I'll tell you how they weigh you in a second. But it's very private in these little cubicles. That's another way. When you go to churches or community centers, they usually just have had to use what they've got there. They bring all their Weight Watcher stuff. And they have tables with all of their stuff they need, iPads, whatever it may be, to check you in. And they have scales that look just like the ones in the meetings. They calibrate those scales, by the way. So it's not just like they've been in someone's garage and they bring them out. They calibrate them because people are very sensitive about this. If they've lost 0.2, they want to know they lost 0.2 and not 0. So they calibrate the scales, and you can be assured of that. I've known that throughout the years. So they have the scales, and they will check you in or weigh you in right then and there. And then you can go into the room, or it might just all be in the same room if you're in a church or, community center. So that's kind of what to expect when you walk in. But of course, everyone's really concerned about the weigh-in. Woohoo! The weigh-in. What happens in a weigh-in? As I said, there's no one there waiting to judge you at all. They always are very welcome, saying, we're glad you're here. When you go up to the scale, let's say you're checking in, you said you're new. They may ask if you have an app. They may give you some paperwork and then ask you to come back. But let's talk about weigh-in. You get on the scale. They'll tell you when they're ready because it needs to like zero out. And they'll have you get on the scale. Side note, some places make you keep your shoes on for sanitary reasons. Colorado, I think, does that. Again, that's just my own experience. Here in Arizona, they don't make you do that, which I kind of like. I know it's probably not as sanitary, but shoes weigh, don't they? But they'll have you get on the scale, and then they'll just say, okay, I got it, and they'll be writing something down. They never tell you, oh, so you weigh 170 pounds or whatever it may be. They don't say that ever, ever, ever out loud. And when you're in the cubicles, you can see it. They don't say the weight. I think they've trained them to do that. But you can see it. Now, if you want everyone to know your weight, you can say it, but most people don't. So they'll just write it down and you'll have it, or it might automatically go to your app depending on the location you're in. So that's how you get your weight. It's not a big deal at all. And you're surrounded by people who need to lose weight. So everyone is sensitive to that. So just be aware of that they will not be yelling out your weight at all in any way, shape, or form. Now, if you're brand new, they're going to give you some information. And the first thing they usually give you is, and this is 2020, this will probably change because over the years this has looked so different, but it's a little like program guide. So it tells you everything about the program and, it goes through it. So you have it as a resource. They'll give this to you. Now, they will also give you what they call a success planner. This has taken various forms over the years as well. Here in Arizona, they want you to have this. They want to see, I have a monthly pass, which I pay per month, and it's on my app. So I bring that and they want to see it. Some locations don't want to see it, but then they want to see this, and they write my weight in here. Now, some places will produce little stickers, and they put the sticker in here with your weight. But this is what it looks like in here. It just says my week, and it has a date and a weight. And then you can write reflecting back and my week ahead, and you can write what you're eating that week. A lot of people like this, and they love just to write in it. I don't know if I should be embarrassed by this or not, but I just fill out this part. I don't even fill it out. They fill it out in the meeting because I use my app for everything else. But this tells me what my weight was for that meeting. That's the only way I know it is once, it's handed to me and then I go sit in the meeting, I'll open it up to look. I mean, I would never have known what my weight was other than that. No one has told me what my weight is. So they will give you those. And then they'll also give you something called a weekly. Right now it's a 1-pager, and it has a topic of the week. This is tracking tips and tricks, and it has a recipe on the back. This is a really good looking grilled cheese, by the way. So they have a topic that's really easy to read, and usually this is the topic of the meeting, just so you know. And that's it. But you get a different one every week, and what you do with it is your own business. You could throw it away. A lot of people keep it for the recipes. A lot of people keep it just for motivation. And, it depends on what you want to do with it. No one's going to check to see if you kept it or what you did with it. There's no test in WW. So after you weigh in and everything's, ready to go, you have a decision to make. Do you stay for the meeting or do you leave? I have done it both ways. I have left almost every meeting saying, I'm just too busy. I don't do well on WW when I do that. I have gone to the meeting and I've just kind of embraced it and I enjoy it. I can tell you I have never left a WW meeting saying, well, that was 30 minutes I can't get back in my life. I have never done that. I have always appreciated it, and I've always said, I am so glad I went to that meeting. Usually the first step going to the meeting is the hardest because for me, I'm embarrassed that I've gained weight or that I need to go, or, I'm just vulnerable about that. And WW knows that. So they're welcoming you right when you walk in. So I think the first meeting's the toughest. Another meeting that's tough is when you've gained weight and you're on the plan. Those are the two most important times I think you need to go. And I always feel good after I've walked through the door and I've weighed and I've said, yes, I gained 5 pounds this week, or whatever it is. I've owned it and I'm back in control. That's how I view it. Now, I always love going to the meetings. As I said, I'll go in. They usually have chairs set up in different configurations. People are sitting there. Not everyone who signs in is going to go to the meeting, but people are sitting there, and we're just kind of waiting for the meeting to start. If your meeting's at 6 p.m., it will start at 6 p.m. for the most part. The leader, I call them the leaders, but I think they're called coaches now, is the person who's going to lead the meeting or be the coach. A lot of times he or she is helping weigh in people, especially if it's crowded. If they already have enough people up there, they'll kind of wander around talking to people. They're very welcoming. You might be asked to put a name tag on when you check in. You do not have to do that. Don't feel like they're going to say, why didn't you put a name tag on? Usually that's not the case. And I'm saying how welcoming everyone is. Every now and then, people are human. You're going to get someone just in a grumpy mood. So that will help, happen. But for the most part, that doesn't happen. All these people that work in WW have been on the plan and have lost weight on WW. I love that because they understand it. They were just not hired off the street for their ability to lead a group of people. They know the program. They love the program. They believe in the program. Now, don't quote me on this, but from what I understand, these leaders or coaches are not going to become multimillionaires doing these WW meetings. They're doing it to help people for the most part, but also so they stay true to the plan. They stay on it. All these folks have to weigh. Can you imagine this? Weigh to keep their job. I mean, that's motivation right there in my book. You've got to weigh to stay on your job. So they understand the plan. They are as invested as we are in learning about things that are going on, that kind of thing. So the meeting starts. What happens in the meeting? As I said, they usually have a topic, but from my experience, usually the coach or the leader will say something like, how did everyone's week go? And people will start talking. You do not have to talk. You do not have to talk. I have learned over the years, if I contribute something, I get so much back from it, but I'm not a person who's the life of the party. And there are some people there, but there are some people that come who don't say a word. And I've been there. Even now, some of the weeks I go, it's all I can do to get there. You know what I mean? It's been a week. So I just want to absorb it. And it's kind of my 30 minutes. And so I don't talk. But other times I do. I talk and I add something if it's relatable or whatever. But I love that because there's always usually someone who's going to talk. The bigger meetings, sometimes they can get out of hand almost. There's the meeting I lived in Colorado had 100 people. It was crazy, but I learned a lot from it. The small meetings, sometimes you might have a meeting with 3 people or something. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. But I've been there and you kind of feel like you're on the spotlight to talk. Every now and then they will say, hey, Karen, so what did you think about that? If they're just 2 or 3 people there. So be aware of that. But for the most part, they will not say anything like, Karen, tell us how your week went. They're just asking in general. And anyone who wants to talk can talk. And then they may say, I had a birthday party this week and it was such a challenge, but this is what I did. I learned from that. Or I went to this restaurant and I didn't realize I could have this dish for only X amount of points. I learned something there. I love it when they say, hey, I found this bread at the grocery store and it tastes so good and it's not bad for you at all. That's the stuff I love in my meetings that I can't get online, that I can't get in a Facebook group. It's just local. These are people who live around me. I mean, I may not know a single soul there, but they get it. And it's just encouraging to me that there are other people who are going through this journey with me. And I love it when they lose weight, when they share a success, because you feel invested in it, or I do at least. And if they have a challenge, the next week, a lot of times people are waiting to talk to you about it. How did that that birthday party go? And you know that. So it's just kind of nice to come back to that same meeting every single week. It's fun and it's inspiring. And I walk out of there feeling good. And they usually will start talking about, the topic. It's not a super long, intense thing. Like this one was tracking tips and tricks. So maybe the leader would say, or the coach would say, so how do you guys make sure you get your tracking in? Or have you had challenges tracking, and what do you do? This is where I found out on this week's meeting, actually, this tracking meeting, that a lot of people didn't use the app. I live and die by the app. I love it. But a lot of people write everything down. That is how they like to keep it in their head. They like to write it down. A couple of people said they keep it in their head, but it wasn't super successful. So they highly recommend you track it somehow, some way, but you don't have to use the app. But anyway, they talked about that, and I found that really interesting. So the meeting goes on. It's usually 30 minutes. At the end of the meeting, they like you to stay behind to go over the program. I don't know how long that takes these days, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know. I can't see it going more than 30 minutes. They usually, especially like on Saturdays, they have meeting after meeting. So they got to get people in and out. But it's super helpful to me. Now, there are products a lot of times at these meetings that you can buy, but they're just they don't push it. They're on the sides, on the walls or whatever. Even in the churches and community centers, I get a lot of questions from people saying, do you have to buy their products to lose weight? You absolutely, positively do not. Do not. That's why I'm on WW. That's why I like the plan, because I can incorporate it in my daily life. It's not hard to incorporate it into my daily life. As an example, I like to drink wine. And actually, after this video, I'm going to a wine tasting in our neighborhood, but I planned for it. I can have a glass of wine today. And on some plans, you can't do that, but it's in my life and I can have wine. I don't have to eat the WW foods to lose weight. However, could I buy them if I wanted to? Absolutely. Absolutely. I bought some peanut butter baked protein bars. My last meeting, I put that in a YouTube video, and I even said it in the video. It was a little treat for me. I had a good week, weight loss, so I bought it. And as I'm doing the video, I realized I'm telling people at my meeting they were $8. And as I say that, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, if these were $8 in the grocery store, I would never have bought them, ever. But I was at the meeting. I really like them. There's some things I don't like that are WW products. It's just like anything in a grocery store anywhere. There's some that you really like and some that you don't, but you don't have to buy any of it. And they have cookbooks and that type of thing. But you don't have to buy any of it. And they really have never pushed that. Every now and then they might say something's on sale, but that's about it as far as the sales pitch for the products go. But there you have it. You've learned kind of how to pick a meeting, what happens when you walk in, the weigh-in, the actual meeting themselves, or the meeting itself, I guess I should say, and then what happens afterward. You just go on your merry way. And that's it. There's not much more to it than that, but it is a critical part to my weight loss journey. I found it super helpful. You may not. You may say that is just not for me. I encourage you to try it, but if you are rocking it, doing it online or doing it on your own, whatever works for you. You do you, as they say, as the cool kids say. But I found that it's super helpful. It's very supportive, very positive. The one thing I would also just kind of warn you about, it's a good warning, but it's about clapping in the meeting. I brought my daughter, who's in college, to a meeting once. She was just curious. And she came and the leader said she could sit in the meeting. And someone said they had like a tough week, but they had lost 2 pounds. So everyone went, that's great. And people started clapping. And my daughter started giggling kind of next to me. And I looked at her going, what in the world? But then we got in the car afterwards and she just said, I can't believe that meeting. And I said, why? And she said, that was the most positive meeting I've ever been in. She said, everyone is so nice to each other. They clap and everything. She said, I was shocked when people were clapping, but by the end, everyone was so nice, you kind of get into it. And I realized I just kind of take that for granted. And probably for someone coming in new, you might say, what in the world are they doing? And say, I didn't know there would be clapping, but there may be clapping, but it's all very positive and it's very supportive. So I just want to give you a little warning about that. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you're interested, as I said earlier, follow me on my Weight Watcher channel, After 50, subscribe, hit the like button. Let me know any experiences you've had at meetings. Also on Instagram, www.after50. Take a look there, but hopefully this has helped you out.